Call meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Kern. Rainier.
Present.
Psalm. Present. Sharp.
Present.
Mrs. Young. Here.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My laptop is dying.
To
Must have already plugged in.
approve the agenda as presented.
It's not gonna go back there.
Is there a
As far
motion?
as my cord.
Wait a minute, do we have to, this is a fair come, you want to talk about the order of new business? Do we do that now, or do we have?
I would just like to mention it. I don't know that we actually need to amend the agenda, but there on the new business, I think 1 and 2, number 2 actually needs to come before number 1 because number 2 is the resolution to approve the lease purchase. Number 1 is actually a post-issuance policy. So if number 2 doesn't happen, number 1 will go away. If that makes sense. So. And then I guess one other thing, it's not really an amendment, but just to clarify on the number 1 in the superintendent's reports, the new employee we have, she will be at step 7. And her wage is $17.08. And that was, we were still gathering information for that.
All right.
That's all I have, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Dick, for reminding me.
Okay, so I need a motion to approve the agenda then with those 2 corrections. The for item 1 under superintendent's report, the one-on-one educational aid, Erica Fowler, step 7 at 17:08. And under new business, item 1 and item 2, switch. Is there a motion?
I move.
Sue moves, then we'll go Sue moves, Robin second.
That's fine.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
So Mrs. Young was actually first.
Yes.
Okay, Mrs. Young?
Yes.
Mrs. Psalm?
Yes.
Mr. Rainier?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes. Consent agenda, we have accepted minutes from the previous meeting, approve substitute teacher list number 7 as presented by the Fairfield County ESC, which is attachment 2. Accept donations, Richard Bowers donated $500 to their memorial account. And then accept resignations, retirements, retirement resignation of Barb Kraft, elementary secretary, effective June 10, 2021. Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Robin moves. Second. Sue seconds. Discussion on any of these items.
We appreciate the donation and obviously appreciate Mrs. Kraft and the time she's dedicated to our school over the past 33 or 34
I'll
years.
say, how long has she been here, Mr. Dick? It's been a long time.
Yeah.
For sure. All right, any other items? Roll call.
Mrs. Psalm?
Yes.
Mrs. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Rainier?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Hinton had asked Mr. Buckley to go home once the snow started, so there will be no student days off because the other student is playing basketball.
Yes, she is. All right. I don't think we have any public participation since there's nobody else in the room. So, treasurer's report.
I mean, I'm not reporting in the back of that. Okay. We did receive the first income tax revenue for 2021 in January. So our overall revenues were $1,580,664. We also received our first casino revenue for 2021, and I will tell you that was above previous year's collections. So that has returned to us, which is good. Investment income was $1,115.88. I am looking into some options over the amount of money we have invested. That's really low. Obviously, the interest rates are really low, which we're taking advantage of, but I'm gonna look into some options of possibly diversifying a little bit so we have some income from revenue, or from interest. We did have one CD that matured the month of January. Because the CD rates that were offered were so low, we just put it into our general operating account. Once I find some options, we'll pull that back out and get that back reinvested. The interest, actually, I apologize, it was recognized in January. It does not go into the investment income. It goes into the permanent improvement fund per board action. So that's also a correction. Overall, our revenues are slightly higher than last January, which of course is due to the income tax. The foundation, as you noticed, was a little bit less, but that was due to the cuts that were made last spring. We have good news. The governor returned some of our funds to us for 21, and then has released the first estimate for 22, and it looks like we'll be receiving our monies back that we had lost due to the cuts. So that will be good, and we'll continue to provide you some updates on what that's gonna look like moving forward and how it'll affect our bottom line. General fund expenditures were $1.6 million. The purchase services as part of that saw an increase, and that was because I wanted to go over the ESC invoice in detail. So we did not pay that until January. Typically that is recognized in December. It's a quarterly billing. So that was why the purchase services looked like it was higher, significantly higher, because that is a very large expenditure, and I want to make sure that everything was accounted for in it. So we had $65,000 in capital outlay, and those were for devices, mostly for devices for the teachers, BOE, and for music. That includes our door system upgrade for our key fobs, and we did get some new monitors in the treasurer's office.
So the K-5 devices, what are those? Are those the Chromebooks or?
Those are the teacher stations. K-5 is Max. I think
Yes, they are.
Say it again.
They were apples.
for the teachers.
Oh, so these are new Apple stations for the
Yes.
teachers? For all the teachers in K-5?
I understand, yeah, yes.
Is that part of our budget?
Yes.
That was on the rotation.
Okay.
Yeah, so when you say new, yes, they're new devices, but they're part of the rotation schedule. And so they're part of the capital spending plan. And it's all, they were very close in what we had budgeted for that.
Okay. I'm just
Um,
curious.
The income tax revenues reflect basically what's in the 5-year forecast, so there were no surprises with what was coming in there. We do expect that number to go up some. Salary and benefits continue to be our largest expenditure. So our cash balances, current cash balance in the general fund with encumbrances included is $8,182,828.
On the income tax revenue after this year of COVID, have we looked at what the unemployment rate is in our district versus previous years? Do you think we'll stay with the same tax base? I'm just curious.
I have not checked the unemployment rates in Fairfield County. I have been watching, like retail sales and things, because that seems to be another, but I can't tell you that I actually looked at the income.
No, I was just curious if our unemployment rate had stayed steady now, because people went back to work after that first round.
Right.
Not so much the service industry people though. So I was just curious if we expect our income tax to stay okay for this year, or if you think.
I think that's why I made the that's why I made the comment that what was reflected in the 5-year forecast. So I do believe that it's stable of where we want it to be. Now, Mr. Dick and I obviously did some quick math on what we received. If you multiply that by 4, it's not where we thought we would be with it. So I do believe that it wasn't a full collection.
So it's
for that.
less than what you thought it would be? Is that what
If you
you're
would
telling me?
just multiply this number, raw number by 4. So,
By the
but,
4 quarters.
Yes.
yeah,
And by the numbers that the Ohio Department of Taxation had given us, what
Yeah.
we would generate off of 2%.
So we're under what we thought we were.
Yes.
By a lot, or
And I hate to say, it's all relative in regards to
10%?
what's a
Are we
lot.
within 10% of what we thought?
It's less, it's more than 10% less than what we anticipated.
it's more than 10%, but I think that we'll see larger collections in the next quarter, and that's gonna go up and it'll catch up to where we were supposed to be.
I would expect next quarter, because for everybody that didn't get it withheld, they're gonna have to catch it up when they file their taxes.
If you remember, they told us that.
Because this is the first year of collection, so they're not
No,
going
the
to
second
know
second
until.
year.
Huh?
This is the second year collection.
This will be the first full year though?
No, this is the first year.
No, we passed it. Collection started on January 1st, 2020. We passed it in November of 19. The collection started, the issue is.
Yes, because we didn't
full-
just pass it.
Full collection takes place
Yes,
this year.
yes.
So
I got you. I'm
that might
sorry.
be part of the issue, Mrs. Song, in regards
Yes.
to where that number is. So we
I
should have
knew it
a
was
better
year
number
behind.
by the second half,
Because we
the first
passed
half.
it in November of 19.
Yes.
And then COVID started in March of 20.
20.
Okay, yeah.
And I think to your
So
point,
this is our first full year and we're starting into our second year.
yes.
Right? Okay.
And I think some, I want to be, I don't know if I can find out. I'd be interested to know what our unemployment rate is in Fairfield County, but I wonder if they can, any way they can tell us what the unemployment rate is in Amanda-Clearcreek. Because I mean,
I think they can.
I think they can
it's by
narrow
zip
it down,
code.
that they can draw down that close to.
Pretty sure, isn't it?
No,
by zip code?
I thought the Department of Taxation told us they could do that.
Yeah, you might miss some of the
43130.
Lancaster 43130s, but the Stoutsville and the Amanda, you should, I would think.
Yes. But I'll be interested to try to find that.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Sorry.
No, this is great discussion, and I certainly will work to get that information and, get it back to you.
Yeah, don't, it is not.
But what I've said
It
all
was
along,
curiosity, don't spend all the time on that.
I think our communities, the workers, and we were essential workers, our community members are the people who the state depended upon.
Well, I think they were. I think we had a large portion of those type of workers here.
Are there any other questions I can answer regarding information?
So is there a motion to approve the financial reports? Probably moves, or second,
Second.
2 seconds, any additional discussion? Roll call?
Mrs. Psalm?
Yes.
Mrs. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Rainier?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
All right, I would like to recommend we approve the following classified contract for the 2021 school year. One-on-one educational aid, Eric Fowler at step 7, and substitute custodian Sandra Stevens.
Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Probably moves, I'll second. Discussion?
As they indicated, this aid position is for someone who left and we're replacing them. It's not a new one.
Anything else? Roll call?
Mrs. Psalm?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Rainier?
Yes.
Mrs. Young?
Yes.
All right, I would like to approve the supplemental contracts for the 2021 spring game managers Tim Lice, high school reserve baseball coach James Justice, and high school boys track coach Corey Langermeyer.
Is there a motion?
Oh,
Two moves,
I'll second.
Justin seconds, discussion?
Mrs. Young?
Sorry, go.
Mrs. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Rainier?
Yes.
Mrs. Psalm?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
I apologize for missing the next one, but we'll have to make do a second round here. The board has offered the positions of varsity softball coach, 8th grade middle school boys baseball coach, high school girls track coach, and varsity baseball track coach. Both varsity baseball coach to those employees of the district can be licensed, and no such employee qualified for these positions accepted them. Further, the positions were advertised as available to any individual with a license who is qualified to fill them and is not employed by the board. That being said, I would like to recommend high school varsity baseball softball coach Ben Hedrick, middle school boys baseball Brad Buzzard, high school girls track coach Ed Sarr, high school varsity baseball coach Travis Stone.
Is there a motion for that?
Yeah.
Sue moves. Second, Justin. Other discussion?
I do believe, I'm not sure we'll have a seventh grade baseball team, I don't know if interest. But I think we're still waiting on a middle school softball position. So, we're pretty good shape in mid-February.
Have we had 7th and 8th grade baseball before? Or is this-
We've had on certain years when the interest has been there, so.
Anything else? Roll call?
Mrs. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Rainier?
Yes.
Mrs. Psalm?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
All right, I would like to approve the supplemental contract for the 2021 school year, and I'll read at the same time. The board is offering the position of high school assistant football coach, middle school football assistant football, high school boys soccer coach, and middle school cheerleading advisor to those employees of the district that have been licensed, and no such employee qualified for these positions accepted. Further, the positions were advertised as available to any individual with a license qualified to fill them as not employed by the board. With that, I'd like to recommend high school varsity football coach Steve Dalton, high school football assistant coaches TJ Langemeyer, Jordan Grubb, high school varsity cheerleader Shannon Osborne, high school reserve cheerleading advisor Shannon Osborne, ball game manager James Justice and Tim Leist, high school football assistant coach Steve Hinton, middle school football assistant coach Justin Castley, middle school football coach Ken Hinton, high school boys soccer coach Jeff Schubert, and middle school cheerleading advisor Rachel Archer.
Is there a motion?
I'll move.
Ron moves. Second. Sue seconds. Discussion?
Again, this is a great number to have in February. We're still looking for middle school volleyball, I believe, and our cross-country coach. And I think that would fulfill everyone then.
High school.
I have a question.
High school volleyball, yeah, and we have a couple more assistant volleyball, football.
I have a question, Mr. Dick. We talked at the board working session about changing the athletic director to a full-time position.
Yes,
So if we do that, are we going to need as many game managers? If that person's gonna be full-time and not doing other duties.
so I don't know that the duties lessen on a Friday night or a game night for the AD just because he's full-time or not full-time. That's basically the only time the game managers are working is during the game. So that night, that is when we need, it's something we consider, absolutely.
For somebody who might not know, what exactly does a game manager do?
Game
I
manager,
thought they work during practices too. They don't?
game managers are, on Friday night, they're helping get the visiting team in, referees, the locker room after, before, during. They're getting the field help, the field set up with the AD. They're getting, I'm trying to think of, like game time, like during the game, this past year, they were the masked police, all these odds and ends jobs there.
Yeah.
We gotta make sure that referees are getting the paperwork signed so they get paid. So it's a lot of things that.
Yeah. You need to have a liaison. of
Yes.
some sort for the school. So
So since they're the fall game manager, okay, so they do high school football, do they do other?
Yes, they do volleyball, middle school, high school, they do football, middle school, high school. We don't have any home cross-country meets, I don't think. We haven't had one for quite a while. But they would help any home event, regardless of football or high school or middle school, regardless of sport. Soccer, absolutely.
Do they do the junior high games as well? or
Yes.
no? They do, okay, I thought you said high school, but it's.
No, at middle school or
Just-
high school, anything.
Gotcha.
And I'll be honest, part of it is we take turns coverage, so
Right.
we can send some people home with some evenings as opposed to.
they can have a life.
Yes.
Yeah. That
Yeah.
seems fair.
Because you have, so when you, and maybe, I don't know if this is the time to talk about it. If you do the athletic director as a supplemental or full-time
Mhm.
position, I know at one time that person had an assistant principal license.
That will not
So
be
they
required.
counted as like the administrator of record there.
Yes,
So are we looking at that for that?
not necessarily,
position,
because it does
or-
not have to be an administrator. We can deem the administrator on duty by whom we deem to be the administrator on duty. It does not have to be a
Right, but it has
license.
to technically be one
Yes.
of our principals
Right.
or you, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. It was just nice when it worked out that they kind of had
Yes.
that. dual-
Now, here's the issue.
certification.
The-
So do they have to be in that position or just have that certification to count as that? So like say we hired somebody as a athletic director and that was their full-time job, but they held a certificate to be a principal. Could they count as an administrator or no? They have
Yes.
to actually, so they could.
Yes, and again, and they don't have to be an administrator license to be considered an administrator at a game either.
What do you have to be considered the administrator?
Someone who deems you the administrator on duty.
It can be delegated.
Yes, it's.
Oh, I didn't know that could be delegated. I thought that it had to be somebody with that type. Okay, well, that's good to know then. All right.
And I guess the concern that I think it's always been is you're, if you tie the two positions, your assistant principal is an AD probably 85 to 90% of the time as opposed, you know what I'm saying? So,
Oh, yeah, no, I didn't mean like.
No.
positions, But, so technically, you could actually deem one of your fall game, if they're an employee of the district, you could deem one of those your administrator for that game if you needed to. Okay, well, that's nice to know.
Any other discussion on the contracts that were mentioned? All right, roll call.
Mrs. Psalm?
Yes.
Mrs. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Renier?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
approve volunteer for the 2021 school year, baseball, Jason Hedges and Justin Kathleen.
Is there a motion?
I did.
Robin moves, second. Sue seconds, discussion. Thank you volunteers, right?
Yeah, that's what we're doing. We did number 5.
Yeah, no. As always, thank you volunteers, right? Love those, as many as we can get, so. All right, roll call.
Mrs. Psalm?
Yes.
Mrs. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Renier?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Approve volunteer for 21-22 school year, football, Austin Smith and Ken Higginbotham.
I'll move.
Robin moved. Sue seconds. Any discussion?
And this is where the thank you comes in here. And two, if you follow the meetings, you see many of the same names over and over, regardless of what the season is. And the people who are very passionate about doing this, they have to be in order to put the amount of time into it. So thank you very much.
All right, roll call.
Mrs. Psalm?
Yes.
Mrs. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Renier?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
All right, approve memorandum of understanding with ACE in regards to placement on the salary schedule.
All right, is there a motion?
I'll move.
Robin moves. I'll second.
This is a typical thing that we have. It was just deadlines missed due to offices not being staffed at universities to get paperwork back to us in time at the time. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So we have it now.
We do have it now. It's in place and it's been, and we have confirmed it.
Okay. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Mrs. Psalm?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Renier?
Yes.
Mrs. Young?
Yes.
Legislative liaison report. Does anybody have anything since Mr. Kern is not here? Okay. Curriculum council report, Mrs. Song.
Yes. Let me get back to my notes for it. And so sorry. Here we go. So, the first thing on the agenda was the career connections. And Mr. Dick alluded to that, I think, in his board notes. So basically, we're going to partner with the Career Center at Bloom Carroll as share teacher. That is no cost to us. And it's a career exploration that they will offer as an extracurricular in junior high. There's potential they could offer it to freshmen depending on how the schedules work out, the number of students interested. The 3 areas that our principals are interested in are health science, communications, media, and manufacturing. So they were pretty excited about that. The ELA curriculum review, Mrs. Pinkstock said, it's a work in progress. They'll start working on it. They're still looking at different curriculums. They're looking at what's best practice and what has worked for other schools. So it's still kind of an ongoing thing. The progress report update is beginning this year. They went back to standards-based reporting. I don't know if you guys had that. My kids had that when they were little. In the K-5, so instead of getting an A, B, C, D, they looked at the standard and you either were below, you met it, or you exceeded the standard. So it kind of gave them a thing to look at. So they're taking input from parents and also teachers on whether or not they're getting the data they need from that, and just, they're still tweaking it, but I think overall, they're liking it. The K-5 book study, they said that it was going well. They're doing it via Google Meets, and each grade's a different reading level. Good conversations are happening. They seem pretty happy with that overall. Offering algebra to 8th grade students. So really what they're doing, or what they want to do, is currently you could take a test for algebra in the 6th grade and in the 7th grade. And if you qualify, you could take freshman algebra as a 7th grader. And then as an 8th grader, you take geometry just like you would go through high school. So they're recommending, instead of doing that 7th graders, if you qualify through algebra, you would actually take 7th and 8th grade math in the 7th grade, and then some pre-algebra towards the end of that. And then you would take the 7th grade state test for math. And then in the 8th grade, you would take your freshman algebra. So you will have one last year of math you could take. The way they said you could catch up was if you took geometry as a freshman, then you could also take algebra 2 if you wanted to do 2 math classes together. The only problem is.
Geometry as well. Just, you said geometry too, and I don't want to make sure people.
Oh, I meant
think-
geometry also.
Okay,
So you can take geometry also with algebra 2.
Gotcha.
That's what, sorry about that.
Nice.
Good catch, Mr. Dick. We talked about whether how many students would really be able to do that. I know a lot, because those kids who are grade advanced are already kind of maxed on the number of classes they can take based on all those other things that they're doing that way. However, Mrs. Strope, she talked about the second calculus BC. There's A, B, and BC. They don't have a lot of students who take that last year of math, and not that we should do what everybody else does, but pretty much we're one of the few schools that offers algebra, freshman algebra to 7th graders. So while we might technically be losing some of that BC students, there weren't 4 this year taking it. Just to kind of give you an idea of how many. It's not that I'm demeaning those 4 students, because I'm sure they are doing well. And Mrs. Strope had some ideas on how to keep those kids, catch them up if they really wanted that extra math class throughout their career. So it sounded like a positive. I got here at 5 after 6. I did not make it to hear what the administration said about the 2021 schedule.
Okay,
It must have been quick,
well,
whatever it was.
as Mr. Hayden was heading to the wrestling meet to take Mrs. Cocker's place, who was there originally, that wrestling meet. What it is that they have to establish a schedule for next school year in regards to the daily schedule. And currently we are getting out of school 1:15, our kids are. And Mr. Hinton and Mrs. Cochran feel that we should be in school for another 45 minutes at least, which is a split between last year getting out at 2:45 and this year 1:15. So it would still allow students to be home earlier, get home earlier. We still have he's got it set, Mr. Hinton's got it set up so that there'll be block scheduling 4 days a week, and all classes will be seen on Friday. So, and part of the concern was that if tomorrow is an even schedule, the teacher would not see them again until Tuesday.
Right.
So the teachers feel like it's a long, long time to be without, not just
5 days.
the academic piece, but it's the relationship piece, that if that kid looks to that teacher, then they haven't connected. So it's set up now so that we'll have an even on, and then on Fridays, they'll see all their classes. And it's set up that way so that if a week like this, we have a day called off, we would not have Friday, we would have even on. And that way, it keeps everybody at the same pace, or in regards to not one group is being seen more than another. So it allows for that. And then by extending it, it helps our K-5 get back to having a special, and not, as opposed to not having a special now. So it,
Kids love the special.
they do,
So,
and it's a very important part of a K-5 student.
Yeah.
And part of the issue, and we went back to look at the data in regards to our disciplines, or lack thereof. Part of it is, we think, because the day is shorter, but also, I think it's important to realize we are still meeting our required minutes, and then there are several extra minutes that we are still meeting. So it doesn't hurt us in regards to not getting the needed hours or minutes that our kids need. So that's what the daily schedule is about.
And that's it.
Thank you. Then we have the student achievement report.
I don't have anything significant to report other than that I've gotten a hold of I did research on an Army, or I'm sorry, an Air Force JROTC, and I think I sent an email and discussed that a little bit. And I have recently gotten information back from an Army program in fairness to one of our board members that insisted we at least look at that program as well. But I didn't have time to print everything off, and there is a lot. So I'm gonna condense it and I'll send a summary out and I'll bring it with me
Okay.
too for the next meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Mr. Hinton has made contact with the person that Newark got with.
Oh, okay.
That has the.
Good deal.
Record Retention Committee report, Ms. Fairchild?
Well, we met to discuss our records, and our last retention schedule was filed in 2009, which I did confirm with the Ohio Historical Society. We do need to update that schedule because it does not include any digital format as a media type. So I'm working right now to get that done as an initial, just so we can start digitizing the records and then keeping them digitally versus keeping paper copies as well. Further in your packet, you'll see a resolution to approve a contract with Strategic Solutions. They are a company that could help us get to where we want to be with digital records and everything. So we discussed that in the committee meeting as well. We did not have any documents to come out of the meeting as far as the retention schedule yet, or any disposals. I probably will need them to reconvene. I know Kyle's very excited about that, later this year to get those approved, bring them back so we can do it in a public meeting or an open meeting. So we can get those sent off to both the Historical Society and the Auditor of State. So we are moving forward with trying to get our records digitized, and we're also working to try to get our records from the company that have them now in storage, looking at terminating that contract because of the expense. And that's about it. Are there any questions about it? We do have several years of records in the building that we need to get moved out of here as quickly as possible.
Yeah, and then check with our existing one to see if they had digitized. We guess they probably hadn't, but you had a chance to check.
They do have
Scan any of this stuff.
so we have a program that I don't even have access to because I've not been able to get a hold of anybody there to give me access. So we do have a way to get into our files digitally. What we don't have is on the retention schedule. We are not able to keep them only digitally, which is why we have so many boxes in storage.
Yeah.
So whether or not they will release those digital files is what I had sent the certified letter to them to find out how that would go. The contract is not clear in whether or not they'll release those. I don't know that we've paid, I could not find documentation whether how much we paid to have those digitized. We pay a monthly fee to use the software where we can get to them digitally, if that makes sense. But I haven't seen really any invoices where we paid an extreme amount of money at one point to have them digitized. It was like they were picking them up, they were digitizing them, they were available, but they also had to store the records. And the bulk of the invoice from them is the storage of those records, the physical boxes they
Right.
have. That's the most expensive part, which I don't understand. So,
So when you say you can get to them digitally,
yes,
how far back can you get through to them?
that I have no idea, because I
Years?
personally cannot get into.
So I'm
them.
wondering if, since they started the contract, if every time they got them, they digitalized them. You see what I'm saying? And
They
that's
haven't-
why there's not some great big number that you're seeing.
They haven't picked them
gone
up
back.
here for 3 years.
Say that again.
They haven't picked up any records here for 3 years or maybe a little longer.
Okay, but I'm saying like the ones that they have picked up, like how many years back can you get to the digital records? How many years do they have of storage of ours?
I think they have every bit of ours now.
Oh.
100 and some.
I would imagine.
Well, they
And
wouldn't
so
have
to Robin's-
digitized them unless we had given them direction.
Yeah.
That was gonna be my next thing. I
Correct.
think, I'm not sure, because I know when we started the process many years ago, they talked about how big the building was, that the paper copies were still in the store. And I think there was one of the reasons that it was never decided to digitize was because of the expense. And basically we were paying to,
It's not that much anymore though, not like it used
But if
to
you have
be.
to go backwards,
Yes.
that's where the
So-
expense
Right.
would be.
That's why, yes, and you're exactly right. So if you notice on the contract with Strategic Solutions, they gave us a laundry list of things that they could do. Because we don't have a retention schedule that allows us to only do certain things, I wanted kind of like everything on it, so we could figure out how it fits into what we're already doing and then pull everything else back in. That's another reason so we pay about $17,000 a year to this other company for storage, which is mainly for storage. There's a small amount of the bill that's for access to the digital file. So that's why I'm not sure that we ever paid something up front to have them digitized. I think they did it as
Yeah, that's
they
what I'm
did
thinking,
it.
they did it as they went at some point.
Okay, no, they're probably just holding the boxes.
I don't know, but it's not good to have those here because we don't have
Oh, yeah.
the safeguards in
Because
place
they're-
that they have there that we're paying for. Like the firewall protection and all that stuff.
that's gonna be my next question.
Isn't that what we're?
You just said something. So
That's
we
what-
haven't taken records up for 3 years. What have we paid for them for the last 3 years?
They have all of our old records
continued
that they took out
So
of
they
use.
they were just paying for storage.
We're paying
Yeah.
for storage, is exactly, yes. And
But it's
that's
a
where,
level of storage. It's not just like,
It's not just down at the old U-Haul, it's in
No.
Right, correct.
temperature
It's in-
control, humidity control,
Fireproof.
fireproof. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that it's, there's probably
Right.
somewhere a code or regulation that
There
dictates what they have to
because
do.
it's
So
government documents, they have a duty and they have to be certified.
Now, if we,
that's why
If
we're
we do
paying
the-
17,000 right there is for the
if we do
duty
the
for them to
digital-
hold them.
would we be going all the way back, or are we just doing digital from like now forward?
What I would suggest is going from now forward and then deal with this. I think it's gonna take us some time to get out of this contract, and I anticipating having some issues getting our files back. Circleville had a terrible time.
Really?
Yes,
I don't know if
they
it's
haven't
government.
answered me yet, and I sent them a certified letter last week, so.
They can't hold your file.
I was gonna
know
say,
that, And
it
I
doesn't
explained that
belong
to
to
the
them,
treasurer, I
so.
said, there's a government document, they cannot, I was like, I would post.
This is something that a lawyer could probably easily.
She had a lawyer, and it took about a year for the lawyer to get her files back, so. I think we should move forward, get the 3 years of documents, start our process, set it up the way we want it, and deal with that at the same time and try to get those back. If we can get the digital files, I have spoken to, this company specifically about the other company, and they said they can use their digital format and put it straight in, so there's no more scanning, so we don't
Right.
lose whatever we've invested to get those
Yeah,
digitized.
yeah, we're not duplicating
But
records.
the number one step to all this though is, until we have a retention schedule change, we cannot destroy anything, so we have to continue to keep the paper, which is,
Because
an
that's our
expense.
policy, is that why?
because that's our policy, so.
So we need to change our policy.
So we need to submit this to, so the first step is we fill out the form. The second, then we have to reconvene the retention committee. Then we can send it to the Ohio Historical Society, and then we send it to the auditor of state.
To the Ohio Historical Society approves it and then goes to this auditor state. Okay.
And
Okay.
once that's done, what we've had digitized, we can choose. And there is a lot of recommendation to not destroy everything, meaning digitized files aren't perfect. So we want to make sure, I would never destroy board minutes, ever. So once they've scanned them, we've viewed them, we've checked them for integrity, I would still keep them. I would always
So-
keep those.
The
In paper
new
format.
company you're suggesting, do they have a backup somewhere else as well? Or do they give us a copy of that and then they have theirs? Like, are there two copies of that digitalized record in case
There
one
are.
of them would get?
There is a backup. It says, right
Did
here.
I miss it? I'm
That's
sorry.
No, you're
one
okay.
of the things
I
about
was just reading through it, but it,
keeping public records like this, you have to be certified to do these things. They can't just go, okay,
The
we're gonna
government
open
doesn't
this
always do
business.
things well.
But
No
they do
offense
it-
intended,
yeah.
I'm just saying.
It's kind of like,
Usually you should have a backup if you're doing a digital
correct,
file.
yes.
And you said they have one, Justin?
yeah, I saw it on here
Okay.
somewhere.
They
Okay.
do, and that's part of their
Stored in a different
certification
site than the
process.
original
Yeah.
file. Okay.
They also will then, so we also, in addition to that, have several boxes that just need shredded. And that's something that they would pick up and take care of it for us, and I don't believe that there was a charge to do that. The records that are on our schedule, we've kept them for the allotted amount of time.
Yep.
We put them on a form, send it there, they approve it, and then we can just destroy this file. So if something we keep for 2 years, it's year 3, we can go ahead and destroy this file. So. That was a long committee report.
Sorry.
The meeting didn't last that long.
Yeah, I know.
No,
I would
but
just say,
you know
based
what?
on this meeting last year with, that we had,
$17,000 a year will scan a lot of files in.
Jill,
It will.
right, and that, literally, the question would be at that point, then, is how much, if we don't have to spend, how much will we save by going to this other, and we can spend that on
Get them digitalized.
on digital
over-
stuff, because all of
Yeah.
the more that's digitalized, unless we have to keep, and then we, I would assume a less of a storage fee as well, so it's just kind of depends on how it breaks down. But based on what Jill said last year, there's probably not a whole lot in Cleveland that's digital, it's pretty much all paper. So,
Okay,
There are 1,800 boxes there.
fun. For someone.
okay. Anything else with that?
All right.
Building principles for that.
The building president, set them home.
Yeah. So we move on then to new business. New business, then item 1 is the previous item 2. So it would be approved resolution authorizing the AC Board of Education to enter into a base lease of school district and facilities and a lease of the same back to the AC Board of Education for the purpose of constructing, improving furnishing and equipment, equipping school facilities, which is attachment 5. Is there a motion? So moved. There's a second.
I'll second.
Justin seconds. So discussion on this one then.
Rick, you want to speak to that, just,
Yes, just a clarification to the fiber. So in the first paragraph of the lease purchase resolution, it talks about fiber optic line. I'd just like to point out that that is an infrastructure piece that we need to do with the hometown ticketing and with the scoreboard and the things that we have there. That's kind of like, it's not something in addition, it's an infrastructure piece to our district that we need to do. So I just want to clarify that. This resolution basically allows us to start the process of financing the projects that have been discussed as we did in the work session and things. It is not to exceed $3,200,000, so it could come in lower than that, and in which case that would be the amount that we would finance. As has been outlined before, once this is, if this is approved tonight, the next step would be then Mr. Burns, who came and presented, would prepare basically a bid packet for banks to go out to bid for this financing package, to put it in simple terms. Are there any questions? Mr. Dick, do you have anything to add to that?
no, I just want to make sure this is what everyone knows, Mr. The night we met with them at the organizational meeting is what we're approving, what you discussed with us.
This all includes the automated systems for both buildings, the band room project, stadium lights, and then the optic line,
The track,
and then the track.
And the wall,
the wall, the.
Yes. Not the gym wall,
Not the gym wall. I ever say that, the gym wall.
not the gym wall, but the
No.
retaining
The retaining
walls
wall.
that
the
are on the
retaining
thing. I
walls,
just want to clarify, make sure that.
nope, that's good.
And I'm sure that they did, but just to clarify for those
Yes.
who might be watching, this was reviewed by Bricker and Eckler.
Yes.
This was prepared by Brooker and Eckler.
Okay,
So the bond cancel, that financed the bonds in 2003 for the original building, it's the same attorneys that did that,
Gotcha.
has prepared this document as well, so they're very familiar with the district and,
gotcha. Not groundbreaking.
And this is to allow him to, the Baird Brian to go out and get the bids.
yes. And again, he had reiterated too, if we go out to the banks and we don't like the interest rate they're offering,
We can still back out.
we could still back out. We could say, nope, we don't like those rates, we're gonna go a different route.
To my understanding, this was just the official step that we needed to take that would signify our commitment enough for them to go out and get the bids. So,
Do we have any idea what interest rates are? I know other things have gone up since the election. Have the interest rates gone up as well?
I still believe they'll come in where he was projecting, I think, 1.6, and then the all-in was 1.9, something like that, it was
They're
just
still
right
gonna
around
be in
two.
that range.
I don't, because of what this is, and the next item, number 2, which is the old number 1, kind of speaks to that too, because they're tax exempt, that makes them very appealing to banks.
Gotcha.
So he still anticipates, I talked to him last night, he still anticipates the interest rates to come in about where he was estimating, if not a little bit lower.
he said, yeah, I remember him saying that he was conservative with his numbers in his presentation just because he always likes to give good news as opposed to bad news, and that he fully anticipates them to be at or below that, so.
And I don't think the Fed has raised anything to where any of the bond rates would change,
Okay.
so that's what the banks would be looking at, so,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, any other discussion? And roll call?
Mrs. Young,
Yes.
Mr. Renier,
Yes,
Mrs. Song,
Yes.
Mr. Sharp.
Yes. Item 2, approve resolution approving a written post-issuance compliance policy in connection with the issuance of tax exempt and tax preferred obligations by the school district, which is attachment 4. Is there a motion? Call roll. Been moved, second.
second.
Justin seconds. Discussion.
Do you need to add any more to Mr. Chubb?
Yes, just a quick overview of what this is. This is not a requirement by law that we do this. This is a recommendation by Bricker and Eckler to, as they say, check a box for the IRS, because these are tax exempt financing for these banks. This is something that they want to make sure that we are doing. Basically, what happens is after we close, I'll fill out all this information and we keep it on file. And that's it. And it's just a policy on that. This is what we did and this is how we did it. It's not necessarily, again, something that's a legal issue. It's more of an IRS issue. But recommended by Bricker and Eckler, which serve us well.
Keep the tax man happy, right?
Absolutely.
All right, any other discussion on item 2? Roll call?
Mrs. Young,
Yes.
Mr. Renier,
Yes,
Mrs. Song,
Yes.
Mr. Sharp.
Yes. Item 3, approved contract with Strategic Solutions for professional services and imaging software, including record storage. Attachment 6.
So this,
but,
Do you want to get a motion first?
oh, I'm sorry.
yeah, well,
Sorry. I need a motion first, so we can discuss it. Yes, sir, you're good.
I'll move.
Sue moves, second. Robin seconds. All right, go for it.
Okay. So in the purview of records retention, I think this will help obviously get things digitized. It also provides us with services that keep us compliant with what we're using RAM, which is our requisition approval manager. This also does a similar or exactly the same thing. So there's several things that happen within SCView. The name of the company is Strategic Solutions or Product is SCView. So when I refer to that, that's what I'm talking about. We did go live into redesign yesterday. So we're on the new software. This product would work very well with the software. It would give us the ability to create requisitions, purchase orders, and the entire financial packet in a digital format, and it marries it all together. We could also then put in any other supporting document that I want, like lots of times I will create a spreadsheet, put the spreadsheet with the financial packet, so then the following year when it's audited, it's a reminder of here's how I did this and this is what I did. We could scan that straight into this, so we don't no longer have to keep financial packets. Those are all digitized and available for the auditors or any other person that needed to be in those files. So what I asked them to do is basically provide us a laundry list of services because of our retention schedule not updated yet. I just would like approval that we enter into contract with them, that we can get started on the bits and pieces that we can do now without knowing where we stand with our old files. That's essentially. Are there questions on?
So this,
Sorry, go ahead.
so this will be for documents from the time of the contract going forward, first of all. And is it all documents? Is it just your purchase document? I guess, what does it include?
It would include, it can include as much or as little as what we want to put there. In other districts where I've used this, anything from the board minutes, it provides a great service where you can do an OCR search. So if we have an employee that we hired and we're like, what was their hire date? You can put their name in and it will bring up as long back as, we have in there. Things like that. So it's a very useful document from that standpoint of the way it organizes things. Personnel files, both current and past employees. So if someone calls in and they want, I've had people call in, want copies of their transcripts from 5 years ago. It's a very simple thing to do because it pulls everything into a PDF. So you can just pick and choose and send, and so it makes it easy. It also is very customizable of who has access. So we're able to keep the security measures in place. And then to Robin's point, it is off-site storage of our documents. So if this building burns down, we still have all of our information. Where right now, the current like purchase order, financial packets, things like that for our office, something happens to this building, that's gone.
So right now they're stored in-house.
Yes,
At least the last 3 years, right?
yes.
The rest of them are in Cleveland.
Now, if we
It's outside of Cleveland, yes.
if we go with this, after they're scanned and digitized, it said that they keep them for 4 months before we have to pay, but then we gotta start paying. So are we keeping them after they've been digitized or no?
I would, as I said, with like board minutes I would keep forever in a paper format. Because those are so important to the future and the past of the school district and the history of the school district. Some items I would not. I would keep them for the amount of time and then let them destroy because we don't have to keep them. Again, I will always take time to look at the integrity of the document when you scan a document. Unfortunately, at a district, they found out the hard way when you scan a transcript, for example, it's got a watermark on it. You can't read it after you can't copy it, you can't scan it, you can't do anything. So they kept all the, fortunately, SCView or Strategic Solutions have kept the originals because they basically can read any of their employees' transcripts. So stuff like that we would want to keep. But
I guess my big thing, I just wanted to make sure that we're not just paying to have it become digitized, but then also turning around and paying
Store it.
to
For
store it. I
My
mean,
intent would be get as rid of as much
as many as
we
possible. Okay,
can.
that's all I needed to hear.
Makes sense to do.
Gotcha.
I will never come in and say, oh, let's just get rid of all of it and keep it digital
Sure.
and be done. I do think there'll be something. Do I think we'll have 1,800 boxes? No, I do not.
Gotcha. And it says here that additional services for storage, I mean, they can store up to 1,823 standard boxes.
That's what we have at the other place. So he gave me a price on what it would cost
Oh.
per month. So we're paying 1,500 plus a month, and it would cost us $500 a month
Yeah,
for the same
I
amount.
did the quick math on it, and it's like, a huge savings if we just move the boxes over to these people, given that that's what we've got, so.
And which one of the bundles are you recommending? 1, 2, or 3? Because we're approving something, so we need to approve one of those 3 bundles, am I correct?
Yeah, kind of. I'd like to do number 3. What I'm concerned about, I'm not concerned about the product abuse, although I think that this district, especially with, after COVID, we're so, digitally, electronically advanced now. I think that the staff will appreciate the workflow a whole lot, because they'll be like, oh my gosh, all this is available, we have so much information. However, literally, we went live yesterday in a new software for accounting. I want to take baby steps and not leap off the cliff and go, okay, now we're gonna make all these changes as well. They highlight, recommend if we're going to add electronic timesheets, if we're going to add, receipts and everything at the same time, to go ahead and do it, because the cost really is not that much, and then we can do it in phases. So that would be my druthers.
If we go with the option 3, and we're gonna pay the monthly storage, then we're really not gonna be saving anything from the 17,000 we're currently doing. You're gonna pay 11,000 plus the 546.90 a month, which is 6,562, then you're back to the 17,000. I'm just asking
Yeah,
what's the advantage if we're paying the same amount of money?
I don't think we're gonna have 1,800 boxes in storage. I think that number is going to come down to like 200 or 300, because we don't need to keep 1,800. We do not have anything just digital right now, because we cannot do that for.
But that's what we have, and that's what they're gonna take in, is
Moving.
1,823 boxes.
Now, one thing though, too, 4,557 is a one-time fee, not an annual fee.
Right,
So that's, it.
I'm not even looking at that. No,
Yeah.
Yeah,
But that's assuming we can even get those 1,800 boxes from that other contractor, right?
We have to be able to
We'll
get
have to give
That
it,
is
it's
not.
just a
It's
matter
our
of when.
records. Yeah, it's just a matter of when. The idea is that we're not going to keep 18. So for the first couple months, they're gonna hold them. They're not gonna charge us for that storage. And we're gonna figure out how a plan for digitization, if we're unable to get the files electronically that they've already done. Because I know that there's data in that software, that CDMIS, which is what we were paying for. I can't tell you what exactly is in there, because I've been unable to contact them.
But how much is it gonna cost to digitalize those 1,823 boxes? Because that's gonna be an additional cost.
If they don't give us that, it is, and that's something that I would keep within, Mr. Sharp's point during the meeting is, if we can take what we've budgeted or what we planned on, and then just digitalize so much a year, which is typically what people do when they have a first.
But we're not gonna have that. If we go with the 11,170 and the 546 a month, there's not gonna be anything extra left over to digitalize. We just used the whole budget we already had.
Well, if we start digitizing them, that number is gonna go down, because we're not gonna have 1,800 boxes, and I can't remember in that thing.
So how much are they charging us a box?
Let me look through here.
It's actually, so it breaks down into a per cubic foot per month. It's 30 cents per cubic foot per month. So it isn't based on the box, but it's based on this
Yeah.
volume.
Well, but
I would say that I've had them ship me a box.
$3.33 a box. If you just do the boxes divided by the month.
Sure, yeah.
So,
And then they charge you to shred the box and,
I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, I'm just saying to present it as it's a financial gain, it's really not a financial gain to us. It may help us in the long run for our records and be a great thing for us, especially if we have a company that doesn't want to give us records that we already own and we're paying in the store. I'm just saying the reason to give it to us isn't financial gain, the reason is security in our records. That's what the,
And that's a fair statement.
That is a fair statement. I do believe that we can position this and have,
5 years down the road, it may be a cost
Savings.
savings, but initially, it's not gonna be. It's gonna be a break even.
I would kind of agree with that, because what I've been able to talk them into is doing kind of some like staggered billings for us, knowing that we are stuck with this company up there, and they actually offer that up front because they get it, because they've had so many of their clients have issues trying to get their records. And he's like, you're gonna have legal fees and stuff that you weren't planning on having, all for record storage. But I don't want it to be an added expense. I don't think it's gonna be an added expense. They were estimating, because I basically sent them our contract and what we were paying now and what services we were actually getting. And they came back with, we're confident we can save you, at least $6,000 a year, out of the gate. And I would make them prove that with what we want to do and what's going on. That's why I said, it's kind of hard
Is that
to,
really written in here?
it is not written in here. I have an email from him that says we want to make this a win-win. That's why I presented the laundry list of things, because
So are we a little early?
don't,
Are we a little early in approving this? Not real comfortable approving 11,000 a year plus the 500 a month.
I wouldn't
So
ask.
we have it more,
And we're still paying the 17.
and we're still paying the 17. Do we have a little more ironed out or?
I wouldn't approve an
Columns?
amount, because that's why I didn't check anything and say, this is exactly what I want. I would like your approval to move forward with them, to design a plan and then come back with a resolution of this is how much the contracted total is. And this is what we're wanting to do. Because it's our records, there's only so far we can go before I'm gonna have to sign something with them. And I want approval from the board to move forward with them, that this is our chosen path, this is what we're doing. But I really, at this point,
I'm not
need,
I'm not comfortable with this statement, approve the contract with Strategic Solutions for professional services. So from what we have there, I'm not comfortable with that. I'm perfectly comfortable saying, yes, I think this is a viable option, and yes, we should probably look into this and get more definite numbers and find out, where this takes us. But everything is, there's nothing written telling us how long it's gonna take them to digitalize those. They pick up those 1,800 boxes, how long I'm gonna pay that $546? How long I'm gonna pay $11,000 a year to them, plus $17,000 to the company who won't give us our records back. So, I'd like to see something more
I totally
formal.
understand. I'm just kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, because I would like, it's,
I'm all for
to-
moving forward,
you know what I
don't get me
mean?
wrong.
That's,
I
well,
just need
that's
something
something
more concrete.
I get it. I may not have an answer about our records in Cleveland for a year. And I don't think that we should wait a year to deal with what we've got sitting. We can't take what we have in our house right now
Right.
anywhere or do anything with it. That's why I was kind of pushing to move forward with something so I can make a plan and then get a defined amount of what this is going to be. Because quite frankly, like, I don't know how many boxes we have. I've talked to 2 or 3 of the secretaries, and they've all got stuff stacked everywhere because nobody's been on a schedule of picking anything up. That's where it's kind of 2 separate things. We've got this going on over here that I don't know what we're going, I have no answers. And then we've got what we want to kind of do to move forward, if that makes sense. And I'm totally agreeing with you. I know it's a little, and I told Mr. Dick, I said I'm gonna put it on there in its entirety, because I don't have any answers yet of exactly what my recommendation is for which package we go with and what the schedule will look like, how many boxes we have in-house and things, because I really can't do much with them until I have at least an approval of, yes, we can move forward with this and make this plan, and then this is how much it's gonna be.
And I think the motion is not what we need. I think the motion is to do what you just said you want to do, not to approve the contract, because the motion is to approve the contract. And I'm not comfortable approving the contract when we don't really have really anything other than generalities. I don't want to table it, because then that doesn't get Dana what she needs.
Lana, what does, you mentioned some things in regards to the work modules, electronic.
Uh-huh.
Does option one not get us started to doing what you want to do?
Yes, it does. And that's where I was kind of struggling with, because yes, it does. However, if we immediately go, okay, we want to add this, this, and this, if you look on the second page, it's a lot more expensive to add it as a individual.
I'm just trying to figure out the differences too.
So like the timesheets, if we add it in the beginning, it's $9.95. If we add it 6 months from now, it's $2,500 per year. Which, yeah, there's that. Which I have no problem going back to them saying, hey, this is where we want to start because we've got all these unknowns. Because that's, you know, and here's what I expect. I want to pay $9.95, but I can't commit to that now because I don't know how long it's going to take for us to get these implemented. Because like I said, I'm tentative because we just started new software and I don't want to overwhelm anybody.
Is there anything in these, okay, so you just turned on your new software.
Yeah.
And I agree, I think it would be overwhelming to say, okay, now we're gonna have even more new things coming at you with these workflows. Does every one of these options include a workflow, or is it?
Yes.
So they all
Yes.
include that. So
Now-
we would basically be paying for it before we're ready to say, let's pull the trigger and use it.
Well, I would like to, in talking with Beth and Brenda, because I will tell you that the integration or the migration into the new software went very, very well, and it went very, very well because of the integrity of the data. And Brenda and Beth, and Brenda and Jackie, they have done a great job. And so, you know, that's one of the reasons I want to be very sensitive. The three of us have talked about having it ready to go in a month, because they'll be ready in a month. They both have worked
Okay.
now for a day in the system, and they're comfortable, they'll be ready to go in a month. I just didn't want to do it like this moment. I wanted to have the ability to, it'll take 2 or 3 weeks for them to get it set up, and then we can actually start in it. So,
You're talking about this here.
yes, the workplace, yes.
I'm still unclear what you're asking of us. I don't mean to be dense, but
No, you're not. No, it's confusing. It's confusing because it has a lot of parts and pieces.
Let's, in the interest of time, how
Yeah.
about this? Let's, can we put this back on the schedule for next month, for our next meeting? Is 1 month gonna make us or break us here?
Now, I don't think nothing makes us or breaks us.
Okay, let's do that, and that gives us a little bit of time to ask a few more questions and get a few more answers, if that's okay with everybody. Just in the interest of being able to have fidelity and then move forward with the meeting tonight. Because I'm with Rob, and I'm sure that this is a good thing for us. I have no, you know, I have faith in you and what you've done, but at the same time, I have a hard time signing a contract having not seen it before. And, you know, just, I don't know.
And probably, you know, maybe my thing is I should have added this as a discussion item to get your feel for items.
Yes.
Honestly, you know, don't want to bring something in that's like,
I think
You guys
voting
are
on it
like,
the first time you've seen
I
it
don't
is the
wanna-
hard thing.
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah,
so can we table this? I'm
absolutely.
motioning that we table this to the next meeting.
Okay, so.
Either that or you guys can, one of you can just withdraw the motion.
We can table it, it's fine. Do you want to move the table? Is there a second? Sue, second. So motion is to table the motion until next time. We can get some more concrete numbers, I guess. Any other discussion? Roll call?
Mrs. Song,
Yes.
Mrs. Young,
Yes.
Mr. Renier,
Yes.
Mr. Sharp.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay,
Item 4, approve agreement with school insurance consultants for the district's property liability and fleet insurance, which is attachment 7. Is there a motion?
I move.
Justin moves, second.
I'll second it.
Everyone seconds, discussion.
so it's time of year to bid out our liability fleet and property insurance. And this is a consultant that not only has access to several lines where I do believe we'll see some savings. We don't know until obviously it goes to bid. But he has had success in definitely finding underwriters for schools, and also he is a consultant from the standpoint of he works with the administration on claims to the point where where does our deductibles need to be? What's going to maximize our cost-effective policy? What's going to be in the best interest of the district? So I know it's a little different. I don't know if you guys have worked with an insurance consultant before in the district, so I want to do a little bit of explanation of exactly what this company does. Are there any questions about it? It does have
It does what?
Yeah, but it actually, it's a little more straightforward than the other contract.
And then, I read this several days ago. What was the final fee that we would pay to them?
It is $2 per student. He does his fees based on the student, or minimum of, I think, $3,500. So for us, it'd be, I believe, it's $3,500.
A year.
Yes. per
And we
year.
expect him to save more than that for us anyway.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
He can't guarantee it, but initially, I think we'll see significant savings.
And it's a 1-year contract?
Yes,
Okay.
And there's an additional fee for the cyber?
yes. So what he did for cyber is he formed a consortium amongst his member schools. So it's kind of a shared policy. So instead of seeing a line item inside the policy for cyber, he does a separate. Cybersecurity used to be insurance used to be very, very expensive. It's very reasonable now. It's come down quite a bit as the rates through school insurance consultants, their rates have come down as well. But he formed that consortium because of the initial impact that cybersecurity insurance has on schools because it was so expensive for a while. So yes, there is a separate fee for the cybersecurity consortium.
Do we need builder's risk insurance?
Well, I don't think we do. But some reason-
Possibly for the band room, and that would only be because it's attached to this building and we may need to have some additional, but that would be something certainly that I would talk to him about.
Something we did when we were building this was it became a rider on the original,
Mhm.
so as opposed to have a builder's risk insurance every year.
Yeah, we don't need it for year, it would be project to project.
So when it says that it's additional, that would be only if we chose to, gotcha.
Any other discussion? All right, roll call.
Mr. Renier,
Yes.
Mrs. Psalm,
Yes.
Mrs. Young,
Yes.
Mr. Sharp.
Yes. Item 5, approve agreement with the Eastman Fairfield Career and Technical Schools for satellite programs, attachment 8. Robin moves, second. I'll second.
This is the program that Mrs. Song spoke to in the curriculum council update. And as we talked about during curriculum council, the career center came to us probably 2 years ago in the process of starting this, of looking at options to bring to our kids. And As you notice, there's no cost to us in this. It's just our responsibility to build this teacher into our schedule, which Mrs. Cochran has already taken care of. And it allows us to basically expose our kids to something different or something we couldn't do, so.
Any other discussion? Roll call?
Mrs. Psalm?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes.
Mr. Rainier?
Yes.
Mrs. Young?
Yes.
Item 6, approve resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Fairfield County Budget Commission with the Fairfield County Auditor. Attachment 9.
I'll move.
All right, Robin moves, a second. 2 seconds. Discussion.
Good.
Dick and I met with the tax commission last week, and this is the resolution approving the tax rates. The bond retirement is at 1.3. That, the questions come up a couple times because that's ready to expire. It expires in tax year 21. The last collection will be in 2022. Our bond retirement account is sufficient enough that the auditor did not think that he would have to collect in 2022. So is that
That's great, and that's a
okay?
good thing, obviously.
Yes.
that-
So savings for taxpayers.
Yes.
Other than that, that's about the only change. The $500,000 classroom facility maintenance, which would be what we call the 034 account, that also will end at the same time, but he'll continue collecting on that through 2022. So we'll still continue to get monies from that.
And that is, as Mrs. Fairchild mentioned, the maintenance piece that we discussed many times that goes towards. It can only go to things that belong to this building when it was built. So it doesn't go to build the band room, or doesn't go to putting a new light in it. It has to do with anything in this building.
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mrs. Song,
Yes.
Mrs. Young,
Yes.
Mr. Rainier,
Yes.
Mr. Sharp.
Yes. Item 7, approve agreement with Dynamics Energy Services for integrated HVAC controls, retro commissioning, LED stadium lighting, and fiber connectivity at Amanda-Clearcreek Schools, attachment 10.
Move.
Jefferson moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Robin seconds.
If you remember, I believe this was in November or December, they first came to discuss the energy controls project, which has led into the fiber piece, the light piece, all the things that we've built. Not so much on the stadium lighting and savings, but everything else we believe will be a savings for us. One that, it will nearly pay for itself over a 10-year period. So,
One thing I will say, if I may add, to Mr. Dix, with the stadium lights, we determined that they were put in 91,
91 or 92?
91 or 92, so they've had a
Nice long life.
30-year run, which I did a little research on the poles and how long their lifespan is. And it's hard to say without having them tested, which you can do, but it costs money, and I didn't feel like that would be worth it. Nobody does anything for free, right? But their general lifespan is anywhere from like 30 to 40, or sometimes 50 years if it was a certain type of wood. And that has to do with their size and other factors. So they've had a good long run. And another thing too is the lights that we have are not currently LED, correct, Mr. Digger? And we'll see some savings on having LED lights, as well as the fact that the lights that we currently have I'm assuming they're as old as the poles are. I don't know if those bulbs, do they get changed?
I'm assuming I have seen lights go out. and
Yeah.
replaced, yes.
And they're kind of expensive to change and can be kind of difficult to change too, I think. But even aside from that, you don't have any warning when these things go. So when they go, they go. And there really is no like lifespan. Whereas with LEDs, we'll have a much better idea of how long they're going to last.
No, it makes any difference. Someone told me that was involved in placing the poles, there's 14 feet below ground.
Yeah,
Oh, my
and
God.
that's a lot of exposure
Wow.
to.
So
Yeah,
again, you talk about 30, 40 years,
yeah,
but that's 30, 40 years in, I know they're treated and all that, but it's
in the
on the
ground.
ground, so.
I knew they weren't a foot in the ground, but
Yeah.
14.
40, yeah.
A
Wow.
standard telephone pole, 25-foot telephone pole is 6 feet in the ground.
Is it? Okay.
So, but these are obviously much bigger and much higher, so it would stand to reason there. And yeah, after that amount of exposure. The other thing too is you can't really tell what kind of condition they're in, whereas metal poles that are on concrete above ground, you can. So anyway, for what it's worth.
And I know the fiber optic is a piece of that they came with the state. Do we have fiber optic here in the building?
Yeah, we have, good.
No, you go ahead, no.
We have the new, I think the last thing we had then was the fiber.
Okay.
We had,
The
I think,
YJB?
the fiber, we had T1 at one time. It was, I think that's what the original building came with.
Is that the last update we did was the fiber optic?
Yes, I believe
with the
that's-
cameras and all that?
That's good.
I'll ask Mrs. Shaw to make sure, but,
This basically extends it out, takes it out to,
To all the facilities.
yes.
which I think is a good thing, given that, even if, not if, when, because it's gonna happen, when things begin to return to normal, even after that, I think we'll probably still want to stream our games and,
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
offer that kind of a service and stuff, so there's some benefits to that.
Oh, yeah.
Any other discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Renier,
Yes,
Mrs. Psalm,
Yes.
Mrs. Young,
Yes.
Mr. Sharp.
Yes. Item 9, approve the following policies, which we've had the multiple readings on. ACA, non-discrimination on the basis of sex, attachment 11. And then ACA on sexual harassment, attachment 12. And then ACAR, sexual harassment grievance process, attachment 13. Robin moves.
Second.
Sue seconds.
You have the copy with all the changes in it, so I just want to make sure you know what you're approving.
These are the ones where we added like the specific
The
time.
time.
yeah, the 48 hours.
Any other discussion on those then? All right, roll call.
Mrs. Psalm,
Yes.
Mrs. Young,
Yes.
Mr. Renier,
Yes,
Mr. Sharp.
Yes. All right, then item, I guess technically that was 8. So item 9, approve
Oh.
membership in the 21-22 Ohio High School Athletic Association at no cost to the district.
I move.
Justin moves, is there a second?
Second.
Sue seconds, discussion.
This allows us to participate in all, I would just say, sanctioned activities.
I guess it's kind of important, right?
Yes. We're playing tournaments.
Any other discussion? All right, roll call.
Mr. Renier,
Yes,
Mrs. Young,
Yes.
Mrs. Psalm,
Yes.
Mr. Sharp.
Yes. Item 10, appoint Lana Fairchild Treasurer as the public records designee. Sue moves, Robin seconds, discussion. That's handling all the stuff we've been talking about.
Actually, that is, I believe that's for the sunshine law. So I will have a training during the OSBO conference in April, and that'll cover the board so you don't have to get 3 hours of training.
We appreciate that.
I thought maybe somebody volunteered.
No.
Good stuff.
Any other discussion? All right, roll call.
Mrs. Young,
Yes.
Mrs. Psalm?
Yes.
Mr. Renier?
yes,
Mr. Sharp?
Yes. Item 11, discussion items. We have the first reading of a list of policies there. Policy BDC, executive sessions, which is attachment 14. You have the, I guess, the changes in yellow that were recommended.
They just made it more specific of who you can bring charges or complaints against. So,
You'd be proud of me, Mr. Dick. Out of all these policies, I only have one comment. Are you impressed?
yes. Who wants to go first with the comments?
I don't have one on this. policy.
Okay.
No, just, I mean, in general, out of
Okay.
all 50 of them that you've given us this time, I only have one comment. I'll wait till you get to it.
Well, at least they're not 20 years old.
I
No.
know, you're very new. I'm a patient person.
All right, is there anything anybody else saw in attachment 14? No, we'll have a second reading on most of these if anything jumps out on anybody, but the second one there, policy DH, bonded employees and officers, attachment 15.
This is one of those that you as a board need to let us know which route you want to go. Remain as it is in the first one, or change it to the second when the date added.
Do we have any idea what it costs to add it to the liability insurance policy?
Well, it depends on who our carrier is for 21, 22. Some liability policies include it and there is no additional cost. Some do not. Bonds are not terribly expensive, they're a few $100s. So either way, it's not a huge savings.
This is kind of in the best interest of the school, isn't it? To have you protected, I would think, or no?
Yes. So the difference is, I mean, it's kind of 6-1, half dozen of the other, because you have to invoke the policy at the time of appointment or reappointment of the treasurer, because I have a 2-year contract, we couldn't do it for me anyway, until I get a new contract, at which time we could use the policy if the policy allows it. So moving forward, I'll always make sure our liability policy has it in there. And it, like I said, depending on how it's written, it should not be an additional cost to the district in the event that we want to do that. The bond is there for, yes, for the protection of if there is a finding, if something would happen with the bond. I can't honestly say that I know anybody that ever used their bond.
Hopefully not. But it's like any insurance, you never hope to use it, right?
Exactly, yeah.
So I guess my question is, I mean, what's the big difference between the first one and the or? One looks like you have to, in the second one, you have to go get your own surety bond, is that right? Is that what that's saying?
In the first one,
In the first one, the premium is paid by the board for the, and would this cover you? Because it
so the
says,
first one's only a bond, and that's written into my contract, the board will cover the cost of that bond.
right,
In the second one, it gives you the option, which the Ohio law changed, and we think it was in 2019, that would allow you to use your liability policy to cover the treasurer as well,
instead of you needing to have the bond.
instead of me needing to have the bond. However, the limitations of it is that the insurance policy has to coincide covering the treasurer on the date of the treasurer's contract.
Right,
So because my contract goes through 2023, I think, it's kind of a moot point, but it would give us the option. So that's kind of what the two differences are.
Can we do it instead of one or the other? Can we have as our policy to be one or the other? Like at the time of the appointment, the board authorizes the treasurer to execute a bond in the amount determined by the board, or the board authorizes the use of an employee dishonesty policy in the coverage. Do you have to do one or the other, or and decide that with the policy, or could you combine those two? So the option would always be there to do either the bond or with the insurance. Do you see what I'm saying? I'm just asking.
I guess not.
And forgive me, because I always, when I think of a bond, I just think of insurance. To me, a bond is insurance.
Right.
Well,
So,
it is.
I mean, that's what, like, in contracting, we have bid bonds, performance bonds, payment bonds. And it's basically just where a contractor goes out and gets a bond from, you know, a surety that says, yeah, we'll cover them, they're good for this amount, you know. So that's when I think of a bond, I just think of insurance. So in my mind, when I'm trying to figure which one of these two is better, I mean, what do you think? Which one's better? Which way should we go in your recommendation?
I don't know one's better than the other because the insurance part of it, obviously, I think it's, I want to say $800. I apologize if I've been in all day, mine's blown. I think it's $800 to cover, so my bond has to match my contract.
Uh-huh.
So for that period of my contract, I think it was like $800. You know, if the policy can be designed that it already covers it, that's $800 we're saving.
Uh-huh.
But it has to be done at the time the contract is put into place.
Right.
So to me, it's 6-1 does the other because it covers the same thing.
Yeah.
It does the exact same thing.
Right, it accomplishes the same goal.
So like to Robin's point, that those both should be in there, that we have that option. I don't disagree. I think that that's probably the best because in all circumstances, like right now, I can't add it to the liability insurance.
Right.
So I don't have any choice but to get a bond. And if you change it so we only do the liability insurance, then I'm kind of out of board compliance now. If
Right.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
So that's, so I didn't answer your question. It was a very
That's
political
okay.
question.
That's all right. This is the first reading.
So
So,
basically, this is, I mean, it would stay in the policy as one or the other, right? It's not like we choose one, it was one or the other, and right now,
Okay.
we're the top one.
I thought
That's
you
how I
said
read it
was
at
to
first,
choose
when it
paragraph
said that, I
one or
thought-
yeah, I thought so too.
Oh,
I think it just stayed, it stayed
I
in
thought you were
there.
asking us to choose paragraph one or
Well, I mean,
paragraph two.
ultimately, we need to choose, yeah, no, I
One of
think
the
that,
paragraphs below or you have to.
yeah, I mean, so I think they both stay in there, right? So we've got either of those options, but right now, what we're doing is the first one. I mean,
The first one is our current policy.
And you're.
I will have to find out, I'm sure, about how that works, what the or really means. If it's just adding both of those paragraphs to our current one,
Because that would be an and, not an or.
Yes.
Well, you wouldn't want both.
Well, yeah,
Like, and would be both.
Right.
It would, yeah, it'd be or, but I read it like it was the top or, but we weren't deciding which. It was part of the policy that you could do either
Yeah.
or, but when you
Oh.
said it, I'm like, oh gosh, I read it wrong.
Yeah.
Oh,
That's
I
fine.
read it wrong.
yeah,
I
no,
did
what
too. I
I'm
read it
thinking is
like
the
wrong.
policy is they're suggesting this policy so that we
Oh,
have
Rob,
both these,
JB's asking.
we have both these options.
Yeah.
Now ultimately, you know, we would decide specifically which one to use, but in terms of what's in the policy book, we can either do this or we can do the other. I think that's what.
I will ask us what or means.
But then that other paragraph that starts with the superintendent, board president, that would be added no matter what we did. That's a question. That's
Right.
in there. Am I right?
Yeah, I think that's what we need.
Now, see, those three positions I can add, or I should say I can add, they are covered now under the district liability policy, and we have a bond. So the superintendent, the board president, and other employees that handle cash, so like our ticket takers,
Mhm.
we have a bond for them, as well as they are covered under district liability insurance, because I was going to actually not renew the bond, because we don't need the bond. So, as I was advised.
okay. Well,
Right, so yeah,
this is good. That's why we have
So yes,
first
we need
reading.
to
We can
determine
get this
that.
out.
Yeah, I guess we need to determine officially, if we literally pick one or the other,
I just wanted you to know
delete the
that's
other
not the
one
one I had a
out,
comment
or
on.
the-
So I don't
Oh,
want to
no,
lose that
that didn't count.
No, you're not going to comment. Yeah, no, you
You're done.
I should have asked you never.
Oh,
All right, so anyways, we got a little homework on that one then. For the next one, item 15, petty cash account, like I said, item 16, petty cash.
So the only difference in that is just the cross-reference?
Yes.
Okay.
What's a major purchase? That was my question. No major purchases may be made from the accounts. Do we define what a major purchase is?
I will have to look at the cross-reference to make sure.
Yeah, because the major should be defined in it. I didn't bring mine.
The board policies be in this new digitized thing that you were talking about?
You think flash drive?
Yeah, it's in the flash drive.
Yeah.
It's where?
Get rid of the
flash drive.
We could put it in there, that wouldn't be a big deal. I still don't know why we don't take advantage of the board docs that we could get from OSBA where they're available, and is it that much more expensive?
I never looked at it. It seemed like it was a shot, but I don't remember.
But we absolutely could. I mean, you could absolutely put in there, and then we could
$2.
give some people access to it that we didn't want, and then we'd be able to update them easily in there if we wanted to do it that way. Certainly.
Sorry.
All right, so what is the major purchase in the petty cash thing, if that needs to be defined? I guess. All right, this next one, the deposit of public funds, attachment 17. It's got all kinds of yellow stuff going on.
That's a big one.
Technically, you changed the name of what it is, instead of cash in the school building.
This is the policy that was cross-referenced from the last one.
This is the one I had commented on. It's on the bottom of the first page. It says, if the money collected, and then number one, it says exceeds $1,000, it must be deposited on the next business day after the day of, or. I think you forgot the word of the event. And the yellow part, it doesn't read right. So I'm thinking just, you meant the word event to be there. Exceeds $1,000, it must be deposited on the next business day after the event. After the day of the event.
What happened?
I think it means of receipt, meaning when we received it in, not when we produced the receipt. So when, and that would indicate the event, I think it's supposed to
You
say
crossed
receipt.
out receipt though.
Yeah, I watched it, but yeah.
Whoever did, it got crossed
Yeah, I don't
out.
think you want an event, because what if it were a 5-day event and every day you collected $5,000?
Okay. I don't know what the right word is, but we need a word there.
Number 2 has receipt in it too, as the day of receipt fund, and I think she just accidentally crossed it out.
So you think we're keeping receipt?
Yes, so it's like when we receive the money, you have one business day, which is standard law.
I don't mind, I'm just saying we need
Yeah.
something there. Okay, so I'll circle
Sorry.
receipt.
We'll get
So
that
you think
covered.
we're keeping receipt? Okay, that makes sense then. So are we on the policy
All right.
18 then?
Well, as long as nobody else has anything else with 17 there, I guess. Attachment 18 is computer and online services.
That looks like that's addressing the harassment policies, those wordings are added to this. Is that right, Mr.
I'm
Bishop?
sorry, can you hear you?
I said it looks like just like the harassment policy wording is added to the computer. Is that what that is?
Yes. Yeah. Just so you know, page 2, it talks about the district as implemented technology blocking money. We have done that and been doing that for quite some time, so it would not be any, well, the policy is new, we're doing it currently, so.
I don't know if this is a place to ask, but my children said that they were told at school this week to take their school emails off their personal devices.
I don't know.
Because if it was on their personal, like a lot of the high school kids, I don't know about junior high, 'cause I don't have a junior high student, but a lot of high school kids have their school email on their smartphones. Especially now that we're, I don't know if they were hybrid, but a lot of stuff is done online now. A lot of way teachers communicate is that way, through your emails. Something about if it's on your device, then it's automatically tracking any website you go to on your personal device, and that you should remove it from your personal device.
I'll find out.
Would you?
Yes, sir.
Because I know for students, they were kind of torn on what they should do because they don't want to carry their Chromebook under their arm all day, all weekend long and whatever to check their school emails, but yet they certainly don't want the school looking at every website or every whatever they've been to. So I don't know.
I'll find out.
Either that or my high schoolers were misunderstanding what they were told. That's always a possibility as
Cannot
well.
happen for a high schooler.
Huh?
Cannot happen.
I know, right?
No high
Exactly.
schooler in the history
Yeah.
of education has ever misunderstood.
Exactly.
And Cameron Middle School could not be wrong. So,
Right, I don't have a
That's
middle
what I'm saying.
schooler, so I don't know about that. But I know when mine were in middle school, absolutely. And do we do this if you're on the Wi-Fi here at our school building? Is that what this is addressing, like the blocking of the whatever sites?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I'll see with that. I'll ask you later.
Okay. What is it?
On this computer network agreement, don't we already do that? Or you're just adding the little yellow marks?
It's
We
just
have that something that's E-rated.
I was thinking we already had that.
Which one?
The computer network student agreement, is this
Yes.
just adding that couple wording to
Yes.
it?
I
Okay,
know we have it in the policy somewhere. I think it's just adding this one.
okay, so I'm sure we sign these every
We do.
year, when the kids go back to
It's an
school.
acceptable use agreement that we signed.
Okay, I thought so.
Alright, so we're still looking at 18, anything else, everything?
Oh, we are, I'm on to 20.
Alright, look at you. 19 is,
That was the acceptable use agreement.
And 19 is just.
19 is just, computer online services, like an additional 80. It's corrections, and then 20, well, actually, we get to 20 word per reading, so anything else?
That is the one that has the hourly change at.
That's the one we just added the hours, right?
Yes.
So anything else with the first readings, otherwise they'll be back again next meeting, correct? For a
I'll have the answers to the questions that we had about those
All right.
6 policies, not 50.
I want the record to show it's 50. I will speak clearly into your microphone if I need to.
All right, third reading policy, KLD, public complaints about district personnel. Again, that is the one where instead of promptly, we put in within 48 hours. 20 and 21 both. Those are the one things we talked about. That would change. Anybody have anything else with 20 and 21?
Is it good to me?
Okay. So we move on to any other discussion items at all? Not then.
I move to adjourn.
Entertain a motion to adjourn, which Robin moves. Is there a second? Sue seconds. Any further discussion on that? I will say for those watching at home, just to give myself a little bit of an explanation as to my appearance, weather stinks. If anybody's watching at home and goes back and looks, I had a 4th grade basketball practice and was gonna go home and change and come back, but I decided that was not a good idea given the weather, so this is what you got tonight. So please don't think,
You're the coach
please
of
don't
fourth
think,
graders.
and I'm the coach of a 4th grade girls team, so please don't think this is my standard attire for a meeting, but it was
I'd like to see that verified by.
weather permitted. They can go back and look at previous meetings. All right, any other discussion before we adjourn?
Negative.
All right, roll call.
Mrs. Psalm?
Yes.
Mrs. Young?
Yes.
Mr. Renier?
Yes.
Mr. Sharp?
Yes. All right, thank you all. And the staff stuff this time.
Yes.
There's the minutes.
Okay.
I'm free.